Hi and welcome to another PhotoWalk Pro tutorial. My name is Jeff and today I'm going to share with you just a little technique I saw in Outdoor Photographer magazine, and it's basically how to make an image look like an old Polaroid transfer, and I really liked it, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and try one on my own, and it turned out really well, so I thought I'd share it with you today. Alright, so here I have a picture that I took in Cambodia a couple of years ago. And I'm not going to actually load all these images up. I'll just show you individually because I already have them loaded. But so this is the image I'm going to work with. And the other thing I'm going to need is a textured background. Now, this is like an old piece of textured stained paper, and that'll work great. You know, I spend a lot of time actually just shooting textures and things just to use for things like this, shooting rocks and walls and all kinds of stuff, because you never know when you're going to need something textured. And this came in handy. So here's one more. This is the border for the Polaroid transfer right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go back to my original image. I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to go ahead and make this a black and white because I'm going to want to take the color out. So I'm just going to go down here and add an adjustment layer, and I'm going to go ahead and do the black and white adjustment layer. And I'll just make a couple little tweaks on this just to change a couple of things. I'm going to bring the yellow up and maybe the greens just a little bit, and make the blues a little darker, and there we go. That's all there is to that. Alright, so now I've got my little black and white photograph. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my, my layer right here that has the stained paper. Now what I've done is I've changed this to multiply. Let me set back to normal just so you can see. If it's on normal, you don't get to actually see anything behind it, so you need to go up here and change the blend mode. And the one blend mode that I really like to use is multiply. Now that looks really nice, except you know what, I want it a little bit darker, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to just duplicate that. I'm just going to hit Command J and duplicate that layer, and you can see it really makes that that stained paper kind of pop right through, and that really gives it a nice aged look. If I want, I could duplicate it again, and there you can see it really starts to look good. And it's a little too much. I'm going to back it off just a little bit here by changing the opacity. Alright, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and group all these together and just hit Command E and make one final layer out of that. Change that back to multiply again. There we go. So now I have my layer on top, my stained layer. I've got my black and white image underneath, and you can see it already looks like a nice old photograph. It's kind of stained. And then the final thing is to add that border. So I'm going to turn the border on. Alright, now I could leave it like that, and that looks pretty decent. But the one thing I want to do is I'm going to burn these edges in. I'm going to do a couple more things to this. I'm going to burn these edges in. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here and get my marquee tool right there. And then underneath this border, but on top of the layer, I'm going to create a blank layer. I'm going to take my marquee tool and I'm just going to drag right inside there and drag a little rectangular box inside. And then I'm going to go up to the select menu, and I'm going to go up here to modify and then put a feather on that because I want to feather it just a little bit. I don't want it to be too sharp. So about a 50 pixel feather would do nicely. And then I'm going to take this and invert it because I don't want to fill this with black. I'm just going to want to fill the outside edge of it with black. So I'm just going to hold Command Shift I to invert my selection. And then I'm going to hold down Alt and Delete and fill it with black. And you can see there it is, a nice little selection there. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. There's my nice little black, but that's not quite black enough for what I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate until I get that nice and dark on the edges like that. And that's pretty well burned in on the edges now. That's a lot of copies there, and I'm sure there's better ways to do it, but you know what? I go with what's comfortable for me. There we go. I just put all those together. I first selected the top one, held the shift button, selected the bottom one, and then hit Command E, and that merged all those together. Okay, now what I'm going to do is just go up here and put a mask on this, because what I want to do is I want to actually reduce some of this. So I'm going to go get my my brush tool, and I'm going to use a black brush to reveal some of the underlying, and let me get it this really large here. That's a little too large. Okay, and also what I'm going to do is just check the hardness of this because I want it to be pretty soft as I take away area here. And I'm just going to start painting away some of this right here just to kind of burn in those edges is what I want. I want the edges burned in right to the edge of that Polaroid transfer there. And just something like that. It's kind of nice. There we go. That looks pretty good. Alright, and let me just fill this in. Okay. Now, one more thing I want to do is, I wish I'd had like a big sun behind here or something else, but you know what, I'm using Photoshop, so I can put a big sun behind there if I really want to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to here and add a curves adjustment layer, and I'm not going to do anything to it. I'm just going to go ahead and add the layer, and then go back to my layers here, and I'm going to change the blend mode for that particular layer, and I'm going to change it to screen. Now screen lightens everything. It's kind of like, projecting everything on a movie screen. So there you can see, as soon as I change it to screen, it gets really bright. Now what I'm going to do is, as you can see, it puts a mask on here. I'm just going to invert that mask by hitting Command I, and that's going to make a black mask on there. Let me click, oops, sorry, there we go. Command I, and make a black mask on top of it, and that kind of conceals that screen effect on there. Now I'm going to go ahead and just get my brush. That's a little large for a sun, and I'm going to paint with white to allow through a little area. So let me go ahead and just make white there. I'm going to hit X to change from my foreground and background, just switch them there. And then I'm just going to click one time. And you know what? I'm going to undo that because I need a slightly larger or slightly more defined brush, probably about 75. Let's try that. Okay, let me just get out of here. There we go. Okay, I'm going to click right here, put that sun right there. There we go. There's my nice soft sun. Now you can see it lightened up the area of the temple right there, and I don't want that to be illuminated. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom into that area. I'm going to get my brush and change it back to black. I'm going to make the size really small, and now I'm just going to paint that back in so that it looks like that sun is hiding behind the temple. Alright, and I'm just going to do this pretty quickly because I don't want to bore you with my really bad painting skills. Alright, there we go. Alright, let me zoom back out now. By the way, how cool is the zoom feature in CS4? That's pretty cool, isn't it? Alright, so I think if I hide this, and you know what, let me do one more thing here. I'm going to throw on top of this, let me just throw a photo filter on there. If I can find it, there it is. And I'm just going to give this a nice, let's go down to sepia. If you turn on the preserve luminosity, it leaves your white edges white. I'm just going to turn that off, and we'll just make it look like the whole thing's kind of sepia. And I'm just going to drag it over just a little bit, give it a kind of a dark sepia there, and oh, there we go. All right, so there it is. There's my finished project. Let me go ahead and just give it like that, and that's it. So there you go. There's a little step-by-step to add a little Polaroid transfer to some of your old photos to kind of give it a nice little effect. All right, that's it for today. My name is Jeff, and you can find me over at photowalkpro.com. Thanks, and have a great day.